Excuse me. Hey guys, how you doing? Today we're going to have a deep topic. Today's topic is all about addiction. Okay? So, the reason I want to talk to you a little bit about addiction is because there's some misunderstandings out there. One. And at the same time, I really want everyone to understand what an addiction is versus something else. Okay, like a substance abuse. Now, what I've done was, as normal, I've simplified it, right? I made it very, very simple that probably a 10-year-old can probably understand, not to insult anyone. But at the same time, as I explain it, I also want to give you a case study and show you the relations as a psychiatrist, what I do when it comes to counseling and using what and how I do what I do. Okay. So if you do have any questions, comments, or concern, please, please, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to talk to you afterwards. If you have something right now, just let me know right here. Hey, Kelly, how are you doing? All right, so let's get on the board and let's get started. Okay, addiction. So this is what we're going to talk about. It's the compulsive need for substance, things, and activity. Now, the substance is categorized as drinking or smoking. Things like working too hard or over sex or sexually the activity of sex. And then you have different type of activity like workout, going to the club. So in context, I want you really to understand that when we look at drinking, smoking, and all of the other categories, by themselves, by themselves, there is nothing wrong with those categories. It's when you add the compulsiveness or the urge, because that's what compulsive means, and it's the need for. See, not everyone needs to drink. Not everyone needs to work over hard or work out like a maniac, and nobody need to go to a club except a very few. Okay, so in context, I just want you to really realize that when I talk about certain things, I'm not talking about it in the context that everyday normal people say, hey, let's go out. Well, if I go out 2 or 3 times a week, if I call my friends to the house once a week or something like that, look, that's not an addiction. I'm going to define it a little bit more than that. Okay, so let's talk about this. Let's look at the brain first of all. So you have the reptilian, that little nugget right there. Then you have the limbic system, which is the outer shell of that. And then you have the neural cortex, and that's the outer side of that. We're going to focus more or less on the neural cortex because that's where memory is stored. All right, so memory is stored. Now, when you have depressions into your memory, when you have traumas that goes into your memory, then that storage right there in the outer shell of the brain has that capacity of memory. That's what we call memory. Okay, so let's look at it in this context. So you have good or bad experiences. Then you have a major event called trauma. Then you have another from bad, good or bad experiences. You can have depression. Then you have another experiences, and then let's go into the N, stands for neural cortex. So what happens is this. Memory is considered past tense. All memory is past tense. So when you have a trauma, it's past. You're moving forward. So the past tense or past, it hurts. And yes, trauma does hurt. And then bad experiences that leads into depression, it hurts. So in context, the neural cortex stores the memory of your past and it stores the hurt. Now, the limbic system, that's your hormones. So when you memory hurt, you also have hormone hurt, and that collectively is stored in the neural cortex. Okay, neural cortex is also the place where you have stories. You make up stories about people, about things, and yourself, and so on. Stories in the neurocortex is future. Okay, so let me help you understand this in more of a context. Your neurocortex, the outer shell, that's the place where your brain does two things. It has a storage capacity, and then it has the capacity of making new memory as you go along. Hey, what's up, Faith Gang? So that's the key. So understanding. So when you're dealing with memory and story, let me reverse this again. You're actually dealing with past and present, but also in context the future. Now, keep in mind, when you focus on the past, even though you're staying in the future of the story, you make up stories for the memory of your past. And when people focus on this, they go into a spiral. Okay. Then as the spiral goes, you got time and memory. Addiction is laid on top of that, which I have over here. The substance, things, and activities is stored on the memory. Okay. The memory has the depressions, and traumas. It also have good and bad experiences. Okay. The future, sometimes when people try to let the memory go past, they think of the future, but now we're dealing with self-esteem. Let's go up here. The esteems is see, myself. How do I see myself? And then how do I see my ability? Okay. So when we talk about the esteems, we're really talking about, hey, when I look in the mirror, how do I feel about myself? How do I see myself? Am I a good person, bad person? That kind of thing, right? Am I a traumatized person or right, whatever. Then my ability. So in context, you can have high and low self-esteem every day at the same time. Let me explain. If I work as a psychiatrist for 18 years, I have high self-esteem about my ability and who I am as a psychiatrist. But you put me in a social area like the club or going out, I'm going to have low self-esteem because my bad experiences tell me I'm not a good person to pick up or I have trauma, or I have something in the social area at the club scene and new relationships. So you can have high and low self-esteem at the same time. But the key with, and let's reverse this, but the key with memory and story and the future is the person has self-esteem, right? When they think futuristic, they belittle themselves because of their self-esteem. How do I see myself and my ability? Because of the past, because I was hurt, and because of all that, in time, we have what we call addictions. Now, addictions again is this, and it's trying to suppress the memory of the past. Okay, now I'm going to go out so you see all of this. This is what we just talked about. All right, I want you to always understand that. Now, let's go through a case study. Okay, so here's a lady. Here's a case study. She's 27 years old. She has no kids. She has a mother. She was raised by her mother only. She's going to college, and she's working part-time. Okay. She also drinks hard liquor 12 times a week. And then she also in the council, also she had 5 boyfriends. She's been sexually active with all of them, and she had them all within 2 years. Okay, so into context, when you have your friends and those therapists and counselors that's out there, and those who are actually seeing therapists and counselors, this is what I really highly, highly recommend. Do not focus the fact that they're drinking and have boyfriends. That's secondary. I'm gonna put it all together, but just trust me. Okay? This is what in counseling, this is what I pull out initially. This is not triggering. Drinking and boyfriends is not a trigger for me. When in the council, this is what we found out. That she was molested, sexually molested by her uncle. She was molested at 11 years old. Her mother doesn't know about it, and her father has always been absent. Okay. Now, this is the trigger for me. This part right here. This part right here. The drinking is secondary. So I would never say she's an alcoholic. I would say she's under the classification of an addiction. Now, why is she addicted? The root issue of the addiction is a memory. What was the memory? The memory was she was molested by an uncle in a sexual context. And because she has a bad experience, or in context, not experience, trauma, because she had a bad trauma, she also has this experience and she's trying to suppress the memory. What is she trying to do? Again, suppress the memory of what? Of this molestation by the uncle. Okay. Neurocortex. Let me go back again so we can see it. The neurocortex stores the memory, and it also has the story of who she is, self-esteem. Now, again, she's using the substance, things, and activity to suppress the memory in her neurocortex. The problem with psychiatrists and therapists and philosophers and all of these other crazy people who's giving out and handing out medicine like it's candy, there's a single problem with this. There is not a pill, there is not a surgery, there is a dang thing you can do to suppress a memory, one memory called the trauma, like this young lady, 27-year-old who's been molested. There is nothing no one can ever freaking do to give you, so to suppress a memory to get rid of the trauma. Do you understand this? I really want you to understand this. So when you've been having a trauma, there's only one thing you can do. You have to work on your story, the future of your story. Okay, so here's what I would do in counseling then. I understand that she's been molested. So my first thing of a question is, do we want to get involved of the police or the law? That is a crime. If she says yes, we'll go down that process. If she says no, then we'll just let it be. Just let it be. What do we now need to do? Concerned about the drinking. There's two things that we need to do with the drinking. Don't tell her to stop. Adjust it like medicine. Say, hey, you're doing 12 weeks, 12 times a week. You're doing 12 drinks times a week. How about we drop it down to 10? Let's wait a couple of weeks, and how about we drop it down to 8? If we tell her to stop automatically, she's going to go through a withdrawal. The withdrawal has nothing to do with this trauma. The withdrawal has everything to do with the drink itself. She's addicted. Her body's addicted, or not even addicted. It's just there in her system that she has to cleanse her system out. Now, you can't cleanse your system from drugs or alcohol or sex addictions or working too much. You can't cleanse yourself good enough and fast enough unless you deal with the trauma. This is why all of the programs that's out there, it doesn't work for a lot of people. The reason it doesn't work for a lot of people is because they underestimate the trauma that the person has gone through. So instead of focusing on the substance, you need to focus on the story. Work on a person's self-esteem. Now, in context, let's go back. I'm gonna reverse this so you can see this. Okay, so we know she's been molested. She doesn't want to call the police officers. When it comes to drinking, I'm just going to say, hey, go to 10 a week, then go to 8 a week. When it comes to boyfriends, dang, everybody has a problem with a boyfriend or girlfriend. That's not an issue. The issue is I'm going to help her understand and teach her about that. Now, here's where I'm going to really focus when it comes to her and this situation. Why are you going to college? I see you want to go to college. Why? Because college has something to do with her future. So I want to make sure she has a good self-esteem and why she's going to college and working. What does working do? Working has a story for her future. Let's deal with her self-esteem, which is in the neurocortex, which is in that, which then if you deal with the hurt, we need more future thinking. If we get more future thinking, educate her about why mama was single. Ask her about does she want a family or not. If she asks if she has a boyfriend or not, educate her about that. Treat this as medicine by diluting it very slowly in her system. And just understand, so she understands she's not at fault. Don't worry about it. You're okay. That has everything to do with your esteem. And the reason is memory. You cannot get rid of memory. Okay? You cannot get rid of the pain. You cannot get rid of the depressions. You cannot get rid of the traumas. You cannot get rid of it. Because you can't get rid of it, you need to understand that a lot of traumas, you didn't do nothing wrong, but at the same time, educating, slowly but surely get rid of the substance, deal with what they're trying to do future, right? Because this is where we're really focusing on. Memory the past, let it be the past. You got to educate yourself and them that it is a past. Work on the story, the future, build their self-esteem, right? If they focus on their self-esteem future, then they might realize that they don't have to have a lot of drinks. They might realize, hey, I want to be successful. I want to have a good career. Well, in that, how do we have a relationship? I want a family. How do we have a good family? What is a good family? How do we have it? And then we need to worry about triggers, because if she gets a boyfriend, then she might want to talk to the boyfriend. Let me sit you guys down here. She might want to talk to the boyfriend and say, hey, I was molested. This is what happens. This is what may trigger me. Let's just be aware of it and let's move forward. Now, why? Information is the key. Communication is the key. Let me give you a real life example. A guy and a girl in a car driving. He's one of those, like I am, over-expressing kind of guys when he talks, okay? When he talks, it triggered her because and he didn't know, she was in a physical abuse years ago, and she got over it and started working it out and started building new good memories, and he triggered her and we had to work it out. He didn't know, so you can't blame him. You just got to deal with the situation, educate him, let her know that it's okay, he's not the other, and so on. So as a single woman, 27, going to college, has a bad relationship, she's having bad, educate her how she can have good. Let her know there's no medicine I can help you with for his memory. Deal with the memory. The only way to deal with the memory is to build good memory. Negative memory, substance abuse, activities, working out, clubs, overly sex, clinging to people in independent stage, drinking and smoking outside of social, sitting in your bed by yourself and it's only 5 o'clock in the afternoon and you typically don't go to bed until 11. That's depression, almost. I'm not saying it is, which is nothing. There's nothing wrong with being depressed. When you see a counselor is when you're clinically depressed. I can't tell you how many days I'm depressed out of a year. Jeez. Okay. So when it comes to the addiction, everyone, You find someone who's drinking too much, smoking too much, working too much, overly sexing the partners or have a lot of sex partners, going to the club too much, working out too much. It could mean that they could have an addiction. That is an addiction state. If it's compulsive, if it's more than a normal, now keep in mind, what's normal to me is not normal to you. Now in context, what does that mean? You may work only 80 hours. I work 120 hours a week. So what's normal to me, 120 hours a week, and you work 80 hours in 2 weeks, that's normal to you. Don't look at me and say, oh, you're addicted or you have some kind of addiction because you work 120 hours a week. No, I'm trying to get my thing. That's just me. Stop looking at the outer part. If you see someone who is overdoing something compulsively, what you then have to realize is the reason why they're drinking. They're trying to suppress the memory without realizing bad memory, drinking, all of those things that I laid, are negative. So negative experience, negative trauma, negative experience, you're going to go in that circle and you're not going to make it that well. Start building positive. How? Education. Focus on the future. Talk it out, but don't talk about the past. Talk about the future. Talking about the past just keeps you in that dang circle. Talk about the future. Where you trying to go? What are you trying to do? Who you trying to date? Who you trying to marry? You trying to have a family, kids, business? What is your future? Build your self-esteem. It gets rid of the addiction aspect of it and then puts you down from drinking, in her case study issue, 12 times a week to maybe 2 or 3 times a week, which is normal. All right. So that's all I got today. So just keep that in mind. I know you're probably going to have to rewind it, so there should be a YouTube link. Click on the YouTube link and then rewind it, share it all you can. And yes, addictions. So we're going to come out again. I'll talk about something else another time, but that's today. Please, what's today? Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere around there. Have a great day. I need to turn the air conditioner on. It's a little hot, but hey, that's all right. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know. And other than that, that's all I got. Have a great day, everyone. I will talk to you guys later. All right. Let me say hi to Mitchell, Alice, Rogers. What's going on? What's going on, everyone? Good job.